18th, 2023, City of Bloomington Board of Public Safety meeting to order.
Recording in progress.
I'd like to certify that we conducted an executive session today, April 18th, 2023, at 5:30 p.m. And the topics of discussion were limited to receiving information for potential new hires and current employees. No final actions by the board were taken. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the February 21st, 2023 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Jazz, will you please call the roll?
Kim,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yay.
Rachel.
Oh, you said yes.
I said
Sorry. I obviously have hearing problems. That motion carries. May I please get a verbal certification of payroll for 210, 224, 310, 324, and 46, 2023?
I'm sorry?
Natalie's waiting to get in.
Great.
Yeah.
I don't know who's seen that.
Thank you.
And y'all can certify the payroll?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, moving to Police Department business. Report on monthly statistics and training.
Hang on a second, Kim. Natalie, can you hear us?
Natalia. Natalia.
Sorry.
Natalia?
Yeah, here.
Oh, you can hear us?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
And you'll need to have your, well, I guess you can you get your screen on, please, Natalia, so we can see that you're present?
Sure.
Great. You'll need to keep that on while you're zooming in. Thank you very much. Okay, sorry for interrupting you, Kim.
No, you're good. All righty.
If you want to go to the first screens. Okay, next. As you look through here, these are the traditional slides that we brought to you. In a little while, we'll show you what the monthly report will begin looking like shortly. If you'll notice, rise in calls for service compared to last year. That continues into April. Can't really give you a specific reason as to why the dramatic calls for service increased, but they have definitely increased and continue to do so. If you're looking down at the calls for service, the nuisance calls, again, pretty standard breakdown where disturbance leads the list with intoxication, some noise, panhandling, and vandalism. So for the month of March, there were 5,221 calls for service. Next.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question.
Sure.
For the noise, if there are reports of noise under the Quiet Nights ordinance, but you're not able to address them, you still note that in your reporting?
Yes.
Even if it's not?
It's a call that came in.
It's a call that came in?
Yeah, there's a certain percentage of calls daily we simply don't have the people to address
Right.
in a timely fashion, so they get closed out as basically unresponded.
Right.
We didn't go to them.
Right.
We just didn't have people in the timeliness. You could go to it hours later, but that doesn't
Yeah.
prove.
I just was mainly wanted to know if that's reflected
Yes.
in it. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
It is. Again, these are the crimes against society, crimes against property, the ones that, we've all discussed that quite frankly mean nothing to anybody but the statisticians and the records department. Next. Here's again some ones of note where we're talking about aggravated assault, human trafficking, intimidation, sex offenses. Next.
We have someone in the waiting room.
Somebody
I
is
guess.
in the waiting room to be entered. Thank you.
Okay, and again, we continue with the same NIBR style graphs, which again, I'll admit to you up front, need to be changed. That's why we're gonna look at something different. See if you guys like what we're proposing and we'll move forward from there. Next.
Do you have
Sure.
any comments on that previous slide on the rise in
You
those
go.
two specific categories, counterfeit and burglary?
Well, again, these are cyclical crimes, so they'll go up 1 month, go down 1 month. And a lot of this, again, this is NIBRS, so keep in mind,
Right.
the way they categorize things is not necessarily what you would think actually occurred. There are some instances now under NIBRs where what we'd all traditionally think of as a burglary, somebody breaking into a house,
Right.
does not qualify as a burglary under this. It qualifies as a trespass and a theft. So NIBRs, while they do a good job of categorizing each individual crime, unfortunately have put some restrictions on what we classify into the burglary category or other categories that quite frankly don't make any sense to anybody other than the federal government. I think everybody would agree, you break into a house, whether you steal something or not, we all believe that to be burglary or breaking and entering, but the way NIBRs categorizes this, it's slightly different. And that's why it's kind of leading to some, quite frankly, some misleading facts occasionally. The facts are true in the way the federal government wants them reported,
Right.
but not how we all perceive that event.
So you're still submitting them to the federal government,
Absolutely.
but for here, so we can interpret them better.
Show you something here in a minute, helps you
We'll see in a
interpret this.
Wonderful.
Okay, go ahead, the next one. Again, much of this is cyclical to your question, where they're up and down over the various months and how they track. Next. Here's the arrests for the month. So in March, we're at 183 adult arrests, and there were 6 juvenile referrals. Again, that remains consistent with the adult arrests, as you'll see, particularly during the warm weather months. They'll tend to be a little bit higher than some of the other months. The juveniles can be all over the map. It doesn't really track according to anything else other than just is what it is. Next. This is a hate crime reporting period. We had 1 reported. That is currently under investigation and currently under prosecution, so there's not a whole lot I can go into you for that, but that is the one that we had that meets the federal definitions. As far as domestic violence cases in March, again, we're at 28, which is a drop from 34 last month. But again, as you'll see from years past, they take cycles through the year for no explanation as to why, it just does. Next. We've had an uptick in thefts from vehicles. We've also unfortunately have an uptick in increase in overdose deaths. We've seen that unfortunately quite a bit over the year in total. The officers continue to respond, continue to investigate, continue to charge where appropriate. We've been through a tremendous amount of naloxone, Narcan already this year. The officers have saved a lot of people. But some of the drugs that are currently out there right now are not being as reactive to the naloxone as what it once was. So we pushed multiple doses into people, and then the ambulance crew and the fire department gets there and they continue. So, as you look down through training hours, we had 827 and a quarter training hours. 13 officers attended the mandatory 2-day in-person training blocks. 2 detectives went to internet investigations and an intelligence course. 5 new officers completed their probationary officer training course. 19 officers qualified with new department issue handguns. That's part of the yearly cycle of various equipment that comes every year. 4 officers completed their pre-basic course. And then K-9 had 40.75 hours. CERT had 10 officers for 12 hours each. And CDU had 15 hours for 7 hours each. 15 officers for 7 hours each. And next. Again, you can see the community engagement. This time we had 11 in 2022, 72 hours this month, 72.7 hours, and 28 personnel involved. These included DR weekly outreach meetings with local service providers, outreach to the Humane Society, and a RAD class, which is Rape Aggression Defense class. Then we had some upcoming things where we're going to meet with target managers, meet and greet, and then we've got ride-alongs for a couple community members that are signed up to come in. They've asked to ride with the officers.
Is this Target the company Target?
Yes.
Yeah.
And next,
How does one sign up to do ride-alongs?
call us.
No. That's
Be glad to set you up. Come on in.
Yeah. Yeah. May do that for a Little Five weekend.
Little
Oh,
500
that's a
weekly
great-
traditionally,
Bad, not a good
you
time.
guys, yes, but traditionally people from the public, we do not
Oh,
take on
yeah,
the
yeah,
weekend.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different when you're the board, but we ask no public members that week. It's just so busy
Oh,
and so
yeah.
many things going on.
Yeah, yeah.
As far as the police social worker, they had 33 referrals this month, which is up a little bit from last year. Their total number of contacts also rose to 384, as opposed to 354 last year. They assisted a mother with 7 children in getting some immediate housing. That was a tremendous feat because they were able to get that done the same day they started with it. They help clients get connected to the hospital. Again, that was a particularly good thing that they did because they were able to do it very, very quickly, and that person needed treatment immediately. They've assisted mother with some challenges for her children, and then they were able to provide some sexual assault survivor with some therapy, waiting to get them connected with long-term care. So it was kind of not a stopgap measure, it was kind of a lead-in measure to get them into that care while they were waiting on an ability for somebody to come speak to them in the long term. Next, please. And again, we'll take you down just through the numbers quickly. You can look at them if you have questions. We'd be more than happy to answer them. We remain fairly consistent, through the months as to what we have going on. Again, these are the community service specialists that have taken these. And again, some of these calls are seen here, like the weapons in progress. They don't investigate those calls. Those are usually helping out with traffic away from the scenes. So anything that you see on there that has a criminal nexus to it, they just helped out the officers either towing a car, securing an intersection, diverting traffic, something to that degree, help look for missing person, etc. And next slide.
Can I ask you a question about the mental health call?
Sure.
So when it's one next to it, does that mean that we only have one call?
Keep in mind, this is the community service specialist, not the officers. So this is the civilians, the non-sworn that we have. They came across somebody that was qualified in a mental health capacity, and they stood by with them waiting for the officers to arrive and the social workers to arrive.
Do we, and this is just me thinking about like the recent situation with the sheriff's department, do we keep track of how many like people in mental health crisis on the logs?
Do we keep track of the mental health calls? Yes.
Okay. In this report, like, have I missed it?
No, we don't typically feature that in this report because a lot of the mental health calls won't necessarily be categorized as mental health. They may have another nexus to them that leads us to a person suffering from some type of mental health crisis.
Okay, yeah, I'm just wondering if we need more resources for that. If we've seen like an uptick with it.
As far as the uptick, I would say we remain fairly consistent over the last 4 or 5 years. You will have those situational weeks, months, where it goes up, then it goes down, then it goes up. Probably the best bellwether for that is what the social workers are doing. Because if they rise, you've typically seen patrol rise quite a bit.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
And the next slide, if you wouldn't mind. As far as general business, Captain Williams will go over our staffing and...
Scott,
Sure.
are you gonna?
Do you want to do the other slide now?
Yeah, you wanna go ahead?
Yeah, can we switch to that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
You'll switch to the one we're proposing. It's just a couple of quick slides to show you. So this is a better breakdown, calls for service years to date, kind of graphically illustrates. A little better than just seeing the monthly. It kind of gives you a better idea. I mean, clearly we've jumped almost 45% since the beginning of the year. This again compares the same date across each year. So that does a better job rather than month to month. You're able to see it a little bit better. If you go to the next slide, here we're back into what you would usually categorize as what we've seen in the past over the years before we went to NIBRS.
Okay.
So we're getting a better documentation for you guys as to what are our true ups and downs, not what NIBRS categorizes them necessarily as.
Could you explain what do you mean by true here?
We used to have a system called UCR, Uniform Crime Report, and then we have NIBRS.
Right.
The Uniform Crime Report, generally a burglary is a burglary.
Okay.
It didn't, using that analogy.
Okay.
Now NIBRS uses some different quantification standards that may not break it down into, here a burglary is a burglary. What you and I would assume is a burglary.
Okay.
On NIBRS, it may very well be broken down into 2 crimes, which is the trespass, the act of going in the house uninvited,
Okay.
and a theft.
Right. So on NIBRS is the argument that NIBRS counts things twice sometimes, so sometimes the statistics
But
are off?
here, yeah, all statistics are going to be off.
Oh,
because
yeah, right.
Here, UCR only counts the top crime. It doesn't count anything below that.
Okay,
So
okay.
if somebody broke into a house, battered someone, stole something on the way out, you're not gonna capture both crimes.
I see.
You're gonna
Right.
get just the top level crime,
Right, okay,
which is the burglary with the injury.
Right.
right, okay,
So both of them have their flaws. No one's defined a better way.
yeah,
Because we have 50 different states, 50 different
Right.
sets of laws, so
Right, right.
they're trying to do the best they can.
Right,
Here, we're just
right.
trying to give you guys a better snapshot of what you've traditionally seen over the years.
So here you would capture both,
Here, you're capturing the top crime.
the top crime,
Yeah.
okay. So for
Going-
example, today, just today on the local news, there was a report of someone who was shoplifting, caught shoplifting, but was also carrying a weapon,
Mhm.
which was an offense because they were a convicted felon.
That would be reported as the felony weapons charge.
with the higher,
The higher of the two charges.
But the shoplifting wouldn't.
Would not count into this.
Hmm.
Under NIBRS,
Yeah.
it would.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, going back to the number of calls, for example, can you provide is there anything you can read into why it's happening?
If you'll give us a few more months to capture the data a little bit better, if you're just looking at an aggregate of a quarter, it could be any number of things. It
Right.
could be that we've had an upswing in the economy or a downswing in the economy.
Right.
It could be the weather. It could be any number of factors that necessarily cannot be explained any other ways. When you're looking at over a longer period of time, 6 months to a year, then you're able to siphon back down through the calls and go, we had a huge rise in this call for service. Or this one. Right now, the data is so close on those, that until one starts to work its way around,
Yeah.
you really don't know.
Okay.
The guys are making a tremendous amount of runs every day. We typically, we watch a CAD screen every day, and typically we weren't getting into the 300s until sometime at 9 o'clock at night. We're there, well, we were there an hour ago. So, I wish I could give you better. We've been looking ourselves, but
Yeah.
the numbers just aren't there yet because they're so spread out to really tell us what exactly is going on.
Okay.
If you go down to the next one, I know you wanted to see traffic stops.
I'll ask him.
So here's the traffic stop comparison.
Go together.
Next one, please. It's the violent crime comparison that you asked for about the weapons.
Thank you, yeah.
Right.
So we're slightly down a little bit from year to date. Now, this was captured last week, the week before that. We had a shooting 2 days ago, 3 days ago, so that doesn't include on here because it's just at the end of March. If you move down to 5, next screen. Again, you have the adult arrests, they're very similar because there's not much we can do with it. And then the juvenile arrests, again, similar because there's not much we can do with it. Everything else is what you're seeing, it just be in a different order, kind of make a little more sense rather than the pick one style. If there's some way you want them specifically arranged, we can most certainly do that, or if you don't prefer these graphs, we can do other things. So if you'll just give us some feedback, we'll be more than happy to make adjustments.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
I think a couple things that might be really interesting are maybe trends in geography across the city, if that data is available.
It's available.
And then
It'll be more heat maps, because that'll be.
yeah,
easier to
something
think
like that,
Yeah.
right? To get some sense. I think from my perspective, a lot of the times when we see the statistics, it's it's that data has the sort of narrative to it, and it's the sometimes the inability for us to sort of interpret, and then sometimes we look at, and I think the public sometimes looks at rates where we say, oh, we have 6% uptick and whatever, and that often represents, two things, right? And so helping, I think, to give that context, I think is always really, really helpful.
I will tell you that you're probably going to see a very similar heat map every month.
Exactly, right,
Crime
right,
tends not to be transitory.
right,
It tends to
right,
occur in similar areas.
right.
But most certainly we can include it. Watch it for a few months. If you find no value in it,
Yeah,
we'll discontinue it.
yeah, and then the other thing just that I was thinking about is when presenting the training data, and again I think we've been working on thinking about how to do this, but I think to me, just as one voice of many, I think it would be really useful to think about this sort of comparatively and also cumulatively, because we sort of say, okay, we did
Right.
300 hours of training, and I'm like, okay, you know, but also then making a distinction between the training that was sort of done because somebody needed those training hours, you know, the sort of required training, and the training that we're doing above and beyond the sort of minimum requirements of a department, because it's something that we do very well as a department is train, right? And you know, and then also I think a little bit of that narrative of saying, you know, why, for example, did we choose the training on internet crime, right? You know, and how many people have that?
Sure.
You know, that sort of narrative part of it.
We'll make some adjustments to that. I will tell you that every time you see something marked as in service, that's required training.
Right. Okay.
At least required by our
and then-
agency. It may not be required by the state,
Right.
but it's required by us.
And then seeing like where we are, because I think the training hours paired with how many, you know, it's quite remarkable, frankly, that we are an understaffed department who also is meeting all of our training hours, right? So when you think about the amount of service that all of our police officers are doing, I think that's quite a remarkable thing, right? And I think sometimes that's lost when we just say we did 150 hours of training, right?
We will exceed the state standard
Right.
3.5 to 4 times
Right.
over what is required by
Yeah.
the state.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, we'll try and do a better job. May take us a couple months
Yeah.
to tweak that
Okay.
for you.
And happy to help.
Yeah, we'll go from there.
All right, any other questions?
Okay, if you want to go back to the regular presentation. As far as expenditures and procurements, I think you've got to notice a couple times in the last couple weeks of various expenditures, including some for radios, which are preparatory for new cars that just came in that we've been waiting on for 18 plus months. Those are being built out now. You've seen some expenditures for body armor in the last couple of days. That's a state mandated replacement schedule because once they expire every 5 years, they have to be replaced. So we have everything we own is on a cycle per years. This is designed to last X number of years. So if it's, again, like the handguns, if X percentage of the department gets new handguns every year to keep that cycle going, so we're not having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars as opposed to a small amount that we can budget for every year.
What happens to equipment that expires?
It depends on what it is. Some of it's destroyed because it can't be vended back out. Some of it is returned to the individual vendors. Body armor typically is left with the officers because it's a very personal thing. It's almost a piece of clothing. So by the time you've worn it for 5 years, I don't think anybody else wants it. And they do serve some value for the officers as spares in case something were to happen to one of their current ones, or take your pick of whatever else. A lot of it just, quite frankly, ends its service life because there are no parts for it, there's no replacement for it, there's no ability for us to upgrade or do anything else with it, so it's simply destroyed. Sometimes it's traded in, like cars. They get traded in and they go on down their life cycle with somebody else.
Handguns?
Handguns, the only place they're ever traded back in is to the vendor, and they only deal to police and military, so they will not be vended back out to the public.
Do you recycle the materials to some extent to make,
We have a tremendous amount of recycling that the department actually does, whether it be brass, lead, other materials that we recover every year from training exercises, and those are sold off to the appropriate recycle vendors or provided to the recycle vendors. There's days that the recycling center really doesn't like to see us coming.
all right, anything else under purchases?
No, I don't believe so, unless any of you have questions on anything you've seen, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't look at everything you've seen. It's all normal course of business stuff.
Natalia, do you have any questions? Nope, okay. All right, we are on to personnel issues, a conditional offer of employment for Tyler Satterfield. It's the agenda item we're looking at. Can I get a motion for conditional offer of employment for Tyler Satterfield upon completion of the transition of the perf process between our two departments, Salem and
So
City of
moved.
Bloomington?
Second.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Kim,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Natalia.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you. I think we have some congratulations in order here.
Is he here?
Is he here?
No.
Yes.
Oh.
No, this is conditional offer.
Okay, all right. In that case, we will defer that. All right, we are on to CERT ARV deployment report.
There are actually two that we'll go over. One occurred in February, but since we weren't here last month, That occurred on February the 14th, Valentine's Day. They served a very high-risk warrant, which required a very difficult approach, so the ARV was used for that. And the second one, unfortunately, was a hostage situation, which occurred in Fritz Terrace. That required the use of the full team for that.
That was March 11th.
I did not make a note of that, but yes, that's
Yeah.
about right.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to fire department business.
Okay, next slide, please. So operational statistics for the city, 41% of 1,243 city runs were fire rescue, EMS. Next. 65% or 232 calls to Indiana University hard campus, concrete campus, for a total of 1,475 total calls from January to March. Puts us on pace for just about what we did last year, so a little over 6,000 calls. Next. So we don't have our total response force included in this packet for whatever reason.
We did not have a structure fire in the month of March that met the parameters for the data. So there was one dispatch structure fire that actually turned out to be a structure fire, but only 2 units made it. So it was like a kitchen fire. So the whole company didn't need to come.
So what is nice to see is 90% our first arriving calls. That is well within national standards and range and our goals. So really happy about that for response times and goals. And that is generally within 240 seconds, 4 minutes. Yeah.
Do you know what kind of improvement that represents?
Well, there is a total call time that dispatch has from the time it's dispatched. So you have what we're looking at is a turnout time, and then the actual travel time to get to the call. I think our people are just doing a nice job. Part of this is our location, with a temporary station. The other part of that is road construction and things like that. So possibly the roads are, cleaning up a little bit. They don't seem to be, as far as certain places. But our main thoroughfares, though, are pretty clear for us. So that's an excellent, us making that mark on that goal, though. Next. Looks like we're doing pretty well. With, let's see, 24% inspection goal progress. So, when you look at that for a quarter, that looks like we're right on track. Mm-hmm. Look at our smoke detector battery installs, we're right there. You look at the adults, the children educated, 277 adults. We're getting out to the schools, children educated, 187. For 2021, it looks like we're, right on pace. So, next.
These are training hours that we have. You can see the red line is our goal. We're just slightly below that. It's generally personnel are expected to do 30 to 35 hours per month per member. We are short many members, so we are short anticipated hours.
So this is the goal of when
The red line.
When full.
When full. Yes.
I see. And this is a per month goal?
Yes, per month.
So January, February, March are the months represented?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, just one quarter right there that we have. And then the breakdown for the month and so in the years to date in the various categories that we have. So ISO, that is the insurance service office, the training categories that fall into the requirements for them, for those categories there. And you can see that where it says recruit, we don't have anything, but that will change here in a matter of months. So. Next one, please. For our mobile integrated healthcare, we've been cleaning up our numbers here as far as average visits per number, what services engaged. We're looking at services being the categories in which our mobile integrated healthcare team is connecting them with. So we're looking at like housing. Are we setting them up with home health or food, utilities, primary medical? Are they getting insurance or prescription meds? Is this a APS or a adult protective services, or is it an emergency, or is this a referral to the police social workers? So those are the different services engaged that we have there. And then the agencies engaged are the actual organizations that we are various, and some, like the township trustees, they provide several services, but it's still one agency. Does that make sense? So we did the first facilitated telehealth visit in March, and so that patient, we did the vitals, the pulse ox, and breath sound assessments to the nurse practitioner. We had some of that stuff done before the telehealth, and then some of it was like she asked for it during, so we were able to provide that. I was there with our mobile health integrated healthcare for this particular call. So it ended up, like I said, when she was speaking, the pulse ox, the patient was speaking, the pulse ox was in the low 80s. You want 90, 94 to 100 is normal. 80s is low. So there's obviously some health issues going on. And we listened to breath sounds. She got the chest x-ray, home oxygen, so all these different things, these home health care services, ended up with occupational therapy, physical therapy, a lot of things as a result of that telehealth visit. So the super user that's identified in December has primary health care now. So they'd had untreated renal failure, so getting that taken care of. And through the course of this month, we discovered that there were some mutual clients between the police social workers and our MIH program, so they were both super users, and so they're getting everything, hopefully, that they need now. So it was a team effort there. Any questions in regards to our MIHs? 2 new ones started this week, so we're getting them trained up. The 4th one will start May 1st, so
Fantastic.
in a few weeks we'll have a team of 4 on the team.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, we're very excited about it. So.
Thank you.
Next slide, please.
I was gonna say the police didn't have any of these. I was gonna send you one.
Well, last month they took the picture of the car vehicle and there were no police in that. It was just fire, but it's whatever. So, letters of appreciation. Letters of appreciation and commendation. Next slide, please. So, Kids Day, crews go in and then they help out with the setup for Boys and Girls Club for some of their special events. Go in and set up, and then times we go and help them tear down. So, next slide. We have more than one. So this is participation in the Black Innovation Month, Black History Month. So for fundraisers like this, there's oftentimes a raffle off a birthday party or something at the fire station. So that's the proceeds all go to the charity or nonprofit that gets some money for that. Next slide, please. Safe place. So this is part of the training that we do annually for the safe place. Yeah. And here we had a write-in from Tri-North. There was an overdose in the locker room, and the police were there, firefighters were there, Narcan was administered. So one of the crew members is actually here, who was mentioned, Mr. Canada. So on that call. Next slide, please.
Okay, so general business, we're now 20 firefighters down. We have 1 on light duty. We have a recruit class of 20 planned for June start. We had a contract approved last Tuesday by the Board of Public Works for an architect services stations for Station 1, also along with a feasibility study for Station 3 and a new training and logistics building. And that was approved last Tuesday. As Chief Daffron mentioned, we have hired 3 new mobile integrated healthcare workers. We're currently in the process of hiring an additional deputy fire marshal. That process closes Thursday. We're in the process also of ordering a replacement engine at Station 5, and we hope to have that done here, wrapped up by the end of this month. So, and then as far as expenditures, you'll see something along the lines of around $50,000 for a fire suppression utility vehicle. It's a 4-passenger utility vehicle that is currently we're looking at where that's going to be housed, but that will be able to go along on trails such as the Beeline, and it'll have a lot of advantages of being able to get in smaller areas where there's burning in the outdoors. So you'll see something along the lines of $40,000 for a station renovation. Is Station 4? That's a part of a bigger project, as we've talked about before, which is around $350,000, but it's just an installment payment as they, finish their work. And then over next month, just so you know, we have a large PPE or personal protective equipment or fire gear order expected in the next month, and that will more than likely be over $100,000. So a pair of if you're looking at just a coat and pants, you're looking at around $3,600 just for that. So that doesn't include the boots. And
Didn't we have a large PPE expenditure in February?
We did. That one was from the prior year, as Deputy Chief Oldham mentioned about the lag time with vehicles and stuff like that. But we more than likely have around 45 days before we actually get that gear. The gear's a lot of times made to fit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I have.
Personnel issues. So we have the promotion of Dustin White to address first. Can I get a motion to promote Dustin White to fire captain effective April 10th, 2023?
So moved enthusiastically.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Jazz, will you please call the roll?
Ken,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Rachel. Yes. Natalia.
Great, that motion carries. Congratulations. You're welcome to say a few words if you would like.
No, thank you so much for the opportunity to serve as captain of our department. It's been a long road, so appreciate your help with that. Hope I will do well. I'm former captain, so I'm getting his approval. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone who's been supporting him.
And thank you for 10 years of service, right?
Yes, March, I think it was right, 4th.
And you didn't get to hear the things that they said about you when you weren't here, but for the benefit of your family, they said that you represented all of the main characteristics of the department. So just genuinely thank you for your service to the department and to our community.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We only said that for your family.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the hiring list per staff recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Gotta make a change.
Jazz, will you please call the roll?
Ken,
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Natalia.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, I don't think we have any old business that I'm aware of. Any new business? All right, petitions and communications. We have a limit to 3 minutes per person, and we have several folks joining us online. Would any of you like to pose a question?
If anybody'd like to give comment, they could use the raise hand feature.
All right.
And nobody here? No public comment?
Any public comment here?
All right.
All righty. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you.